Alrighty, what do we got going on? Yep, we got some more questions. Imagine that. What are the odds? Recently, I've been getting more messages about being retired in Korea, and people are asking about budget. They're asking about cost of living comparisons. How much does it cost for groceries and this and that, car insurance, cell phone, internet, all of that. And recently, I've got a number of messages asking about rentals, or not so much purchasing property, but renting properties. And how does that work? Is it the same as the United States? What are the rent prices for certain areas of Korea? And to be absolutely honest, I have no idea. Okay. And it's like me asking you if you lived in, I don't know, Colorado. And I asked and said, okay, well, what's the rent prices in so and so town in Colorado? And you don't live there, it's on the other side of the state. And how would you know? How would you know what those prices are? So think of it even bigger when it's kind of a similar situation where people ask me and they say, well, what are the rent prices in this city or this town? And it's places I have never been, I have no clue about. I look it up and it's like, I really don't know. It's hard to tell. Just because I live in the country doesn't mean I have this Rolodex that has been downloaded into my brain on the rent prices for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in all the places in Korea. It just doesn't happen. I wish I did, because then I could capitalize and make a lot of money off that. But with that being said, renting property here in Korea or doing leases is different than what we see in the United States. And I want to go over some information. And usually in the United States, you'll pay about 2 months worth of rent as a deposit, and maybe even a little bit extra on top of a deposit to secure the property. So you have first month's rent, last month's rent, then you might have a security deposit on top of that. And then you sign the contract for a term, 1 or 2 years, whatever it is, and then you move into the property and boom, you're a tenant, you take care of the property, you have your responsibilities, the landlord has theirs. So you're also responsible for the gas, the heat, the water, usually, from my experience of being in the US, to have to pay for all of those things. Now, some apartment complexes have their own trash, but they pass that expense on as a fee for that apartment sometimes. So basically, you're paying a monthly amount to live in that apartment just for the property itself. Now, here in Korea, it's a little bit different. There's some options, and we're going to kind of go over this stuff. I guess we'll do a screen share, might as well. One of the rental options is called Jeonse, sometimes referred to as key money apartment or key money house. And usually that involves about the landlord getting a deposit that is about 50 to 70% of the property price. So that can be a huge amount. It can also be a small amount, but it can also be a very big amount depending on the value of the property that you're trying to lease. But the good news is, with such a huge down payment, you live in that property for a term of usually 2 years or more, depending on the contract. Again, it's all in the lease contract. And at the end of the contract, the landlord returns that deposit money to the tenant, where you could either renew the property, the lease agreement, or you could move on to a different apartment building or house or whatever and do the same thing. Now, how does this work? Well, basically, the landlord benefits by investing that large amount of deposit that you gave him according to a contract, and they invest it into a bank. They get interest, or they invest it in some other way. And it should be noted that about 70% of the properties, rental properties in Korea, are Jeonse. So yeah, it's definitely a thing, and that's why Koreans will work hard. They'll save. They're good at saving money, because you have to have a big, large deposit to be able to move into a place. So that it's kind of like you're in the situation, so you have to save money to get a big deposit. Now, there are other ways to rent properties here, but that is the main way. Now, let's see. So we own a 4-bedroom, 2-bath apartment that costs us about $275,000, 260, 275, depending on the exchange rate. And it was a good deal because we got it at a discount. Normal price was about $300,000. We could rent it out via this jeonse. So a Korean tenant would pay about 50 to 70% of the property value as a deposit. So in other words, a deposit of about almost $140,000 to $193,000 as a deposit. And then for that period of 2 years, excuse me, then for that period of 2 years or whatever's in the contract, they would live rent free. And then I would have access to that money and I could put it in the bank and make interest for during those 2 years. I could use it for other investing things. Okay. But yeah, that's mainly how people do rentals here in Korea. Now, it's not the only way, because I know some people say, oh, blah, 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 and they'll start going off, and it's like, well, just hold on. I'm not done with the video. Talk about some foreigners claim that off-post United States Forces Korea housing takes advantage of military personnel and they pay more. Well, it's interesting because here in Korea, since I live near a military base, rent prices are usually a little bit higher. That's kind of like every other military base around the world and even military bases in the United States. Rents are going to be higher. So can you really say that Korea's taken advantage of military? Well, the United States, they do the exact same thing. It's just the nature of the beast, and it is what it is. Now, there's another rental option, and it's called wolse. But you don't see this as often or as much as you do as the jeonse. This requires a tenant paying a deposit plus a monthly payment, which is a reduced payment for a contract, usually for 2 years. The deposit is worth about 2 years of rental payments. The tenant's payments range from about a 12th to a 10th of the total deposit. So, for example, if we rented out our $275,000 apartment with this type of option, the deposit would be about $1,000 per month multiplied by 12, which is about $12,600, multiplied by 2, which comes out to $25,000. Then the monthly rent would range from $2,100 to $2,520 per month. This doesn't take into account popular areas that demand more rent, as real estate prices are higher in more areas that have more demand, which will drive up retail prices of the property and thus the rental prices of the property as well. But we see this pretty much everywhere in the rest of the world. Now, there are some other things. Yeah, pretty much the rest of that is just dealt with another post. But people have asked, are there monthly rentals? Absolutely. There are monthly rental agreements that you can get. Normally, what you'll see around a military base is there are not as many month-to-month rental options because they want the military, they want the contractors, they want the people that are working at military bases to do a 1 to 2 year contract. 2-year contract is about the norm. So with that being said, you won't see as many month-to-month rental places because there's just not a big need for them. They kind of push those off to the side. They can be found, like in this area, we were able to get a month-to-month rent, and we had to sign a contract for 3 months, a minimum of 3 months. And even though we only stayed in it, I think like 2 months, we still had to pay the third month. And, we found our apartment and so we moved, but we kind of chalked it up as being, well, it's part of the cost of doing business because we couldn't find a month-to-month place. And even the place that we found, it was kind of like done as a favor. Okay, so it wasn't normally advertised. It was kind of a one-off thing, and it's because of the Weiss family and so on and so forth. But that's not the case in all areas of Korea. A lot of towns and cities in Korea, you can find month-to-month rentals, big places, medium-sized places, small places, office-tels, which are like a dorm room-ish type of rental where you have a bed and you have a small room and then you have a communal bathroom, communal kitchen or something like that. There's also places where you can rent rooms where you have a room in a house, but you have housemates. So there is that option as well if you're trying to live on the cheap. I don't know any people that do that, and most of the people that contact me and ask about our experiences here in Korea, yeah, we didn't do that. We did an Airbnb, which in this area was pretty expensive. So, yeah, not a lot of Airbnbs, but they are expensive, at least in this area, due to the fact that there's such a huge military presence in this area, which is Camp Humphreys, Korea, which is the largest U.S. military base, overseas military base in the world. So there's like 35,000 soldiers and contractors and families and so on and so forth. So employees, all that. So it is a very big base. And even then, they're building more on-post housing, but there's still rental options in Korea outside of Camp Humphreys. There's a big demand because they don't have enough housing. So, but they are putting up a lot of housing. So I'm kind of confident in the choice of the apartment that we're living in now because it's a higher end apartment here in Onjingni, which is close to Camp Humphreys, which is good. It also is part of the DoD bus route. So if you have kidlings that go to the on-post schools, there's buses that pull up and you can drop your kids. It's just, 1 or 2 minute walk to the bus stop and boom, there they are. And you see all the little kidlings and the dependents putting their kids on the buses and boom, they take them and bring them back at the end of the day. So that's definitely a benefit. If you're military or if you're a contractor and you have children, that's something to look forward to or to look at in regards to, is it on the DoD bus route for kids going to school if you have kids? If not, doesn't matter. Who cares? If you don't have Rugrats, you're golden. Ours are out of the house, and yeah, it's kind of interesting. So anyway, yeah, those are some of the things that you can look for. So when people contact me and say, hey, what are the rental prices for this town or this city? I found, the Weiss family lives in this area, so it's kind of out in the sticks in the small town or city. What are the rent prices there? I have no clue. Okay, honestly, I know about this area, but I don't know about renting in other places because that would require me getting with my wife and my wife having to call property managers, and even that, it's not something. Now you could probably go online. Matter of fact, let me see if I can. Where is that? Let me do a quick check and see if Naver and Naver.com, which ends up, they have real estate listings, and we'll take a look and see if they real estate home. We'll just kind of plug this in here. I guess I can show you what I'm doing. So this is Naver. Naver is a real estate website, and this is if you're buying. For sale or planned, transaction type, monthly, charter, short-term rental. So you could kind of do that. And once we got that, and we'll just leave it for apartment and office tel. And let me see if I can back up. And the great thing is that using Chrome, okay, apparently that is way too far out. So let me start over and show you what I'm doing. So the Naver website, normally it's a Korean website, but what you can end up doing, I use Chrome, and what you can do is it has a translation that'll translate it from Korean into English, but we're going to go into the real estate portion of it, and it comes up with this map, and you can translate. Let me see if I can't get that to populate. Yep, there we go. And then usually just to click on this map, on the maps it's in Korean, so you're going to have that. But what you'll need to do, and maybe I need to make this a little bit smaller, there we go. So we can use the things here. Now that's kind of up in Seoul. So we're going to back off. So you're going to have to know your terrain features and find out. So I know in this area here, of course, I can read a little bit Korean and it's translated into English. But I can go here and click on, what am I doing? There we go. Let's back this up a little bit. So that's going to be the military base, and this is basically the town outside of there. So if we look at different apartments, let's say, oh, there was one, Oscarville, there's 14 apartments, and for sale, sale, 570 million. Dun, dun, dun. We don't want that. We just want monthly and short-term rental, and take a look at what we have. And you can, of course, your options are now limited, but what I could end up doing, like say the Maximum in Humphreys, that's kind of a place that's close by, and you can end up seeing, it's a commercial complex, it's real small, and what you could end up seeing is, come on, populate. And you can kind of look and see some of the pictures. Some of these are updated pictures, a lot of them are not. But you can see this is just like a condo efficiency apartment, you know, real kind of small. And you can get some ideas. That looks like a queen size bed. That's the master bedroom. Kitchen, which is, oh, it's got a stove and an oven. That's nice. And bathrooms are generally kind of like that. Everything's tiled, standing shower. There's a master bath, tub and shower, and that's kind of the entryway going into the property. So, and you can also look at the floor plan and take a look at this. So the entryway is here, you got a bedroom here, here, and here, so it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, small galley kitchen type of thing with your fridge over here, and then you got kind of like that could be a laundry room, it depends. But as we go here, we can see that the monthly rent is about $1,000. 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Maintenance cost is 180,000 won a month because there's basically an apartment fee. As far as the rental price, 1 million won? I'm not sure how that translates. Interesting. Let me see if we can redo this, and we'll just do it in Korean. So that's at Wolsey, which is 1,120. I'm not sure how that works, what that would be. So you'd have to ask somebody who's fluent in Korean, obviously way more fluent than me, of how much that monthly amount would be and what that actually means. So yeah, that's a way that you can look and check on different properties in the area, and once you could get over that hurdle, you could find out the different prices. Like, oh, here it is, like 600,000 won a month. So there's one there. Let's pull this up. It doesn't have any pictures. So it says 600,000 won a month for those of you who are wondering. Let's see, 600,000 divided by 1350, which is about the exchange rate. You're looking at about $460 to maybe $500, somewhere around there. 3-bedroom, 1-bath, no pictures. Maintenance cost is 30,000 won, so you're going to pay a little bit extra for that monthly amount for being in that apartment or building or whatever. That's kind of a normal thing. So anyway, you can go on Naver, you can go to the real estate, you can go to apartments. Now there's also villas and houses. Let's see what that comes into, and you'll have to come over here to transaction type, and you'll have to redo it. So for monthly and short-term rental, and we can see, let's put how they do the rent. I'm not exactly sure. So that is interesting. I'm not sure how you would read that. But this is obviously, like this one here, is a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. And you can see that it's, what else do we got on here? Maintenance cost 60,000 won per month. It tells you if it has a loan on it. has a clean one room, parking available 10 minutes by military vehicle or to the military base is kind of, I think, what they're saying. Current tenant living expected to move out on August 1st. So refrigerator, washing machine, sink, wall-mounted air conditioner, which you will need. And if we click on the pictures, we can see that this is kind of just an efficiency apartment. There's your living room, kind of sparse. There's the bathroom. There's the other side. So it's really an efficiency apartment. So yeah, depending on what you're looking for, washer, you're gonna have to hang up your clothes to dry and things like that. There are ways that you can look up. Just figuring out how much that is in monthly rent, I'm not sure, which is odd. Some places are obviously more than others, but there are some different rental options. Multifamily units, monthly rent. Let's try that one and see what that says. Yeah, I know. Hello. Or maybe we won't. I don't know, that's not popping up. So anyway, but that's a way that you can take a look at properties and find out rentals in the area that you're looking for. Again, you're going to have to go to naver.com, go to real estate, and go through those different steps. Definitely use a browser that can translate, like Chrome has a plugin that translates from Korean to English, which makes it a hell of a lot easier. But that's what we ended up using to kind of weed out and pre-screen the properties that we were looking at that we wanted to purchase. We didn't use it per se for renting because we just got with Airbnb. I think we spent like 3 weeks in an Airbnb, and that was kind of expensive. And then we found out that for our visas, our F1 and F4 visa would take about 2.5 months. We decided, hey, let's try to find a month-to-month, and through family connections and so-and-so knew so-and-so who knows so-and-so, hey, do me a solid, we're able to get a month-to-month with a minimum 3-month contract. So yeah, it worked out well for us. But again, it kind of depends on your budget. We kind of knew already ahead of time. There was like 2 or 3 apartment buildings that we were looking at because we used Naver and we had been in Korea before. We knew the area that we were going to move into. So we kind of had an idea. But for somebody that is moving to an area that they haven't spent a lot of time, I highly suggest that you go visit, that you do a short-term rental, maybe just come on a tourist visa. Try to find a month-to-month rental in a smaller place. Get to know the place, get to know the town, the city, and ask people. Maybe if there's foreigners that are in that area, you can ask for their 2 cents. Most of them will give you their opinion on where to rent and places to stay away from. And some apartment buildings are more insulated than others. Others have like LPG gas, which the expenses are really high compared to the city gas, which is usually better. Just a lot of different options when it comes to rentals in Korea and purchasing properties in Korea as well. So for the people that are asking me and saying, hey, what's the rental price for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in so-and-so place? I just showed you how to do it, so knock yourself out. I don't get paid for any of this, but I will point you in the right direction to be able for you to get that information yourself and do your own due diligence. Some people have asked me and said, well, hey, what realtor do you use? And really want to know the realtor that you use. In all honesty, I can't really recommend a realtor. You would have to do your own due diligence and get a realtor that has high ratings. Obviously, you're going to have to get with a realtor, whether you're renting and or buying, that person is well versed in what you're wanting to do. There's not as many bad apples in Korea as far as realtors as there is in the United States, in my humble opinion. But even then, you should shop for the best realtor in that city or town that you're trying to go to give you the best service. The realtor that we had was good for us, but we recommended it to somebody and they just didn't click personally. They didn't jive. because of personality quirks or whatever, people were different, so they just didn't hit it off. They still did good service, but that couple ended up getting another realtor that they clicked with, gave him great service. And so, yeah, it depends. You have to shop around and find the realtor that just kind of clicks with you and run with that. So I don't recommend realtors anymore. I do recommend immigration lawyers because ours is great, and a number of people that have used that immigration lawyer said the same thing. And matter of fact, let me see, immigration. This is, boom. Wow, that is big. Okay. So that is still big. Okay, and it's still big. Okay. So we'll just leave it at that. So that's the immigration lawyer that we used. They're in Songtong, close to Osan Air Base. We didn't mind that. It's a short trip, 30 minutes away, 40 minutes away, whatever it is, depending on traffic. But they gave us really good service, and that's the immigration office that we used when we got to Korea on a tourist visa to process and help us with the F1 and F4 visa submission. Now, the good thing is that they're in the same building as Korean immigration. So they are up to date on everything that comes out. They work closely with immigration, which is one of the great things about these people here. They don't speak English, but through the wife, my wife was actually the one that found them, and we highly recommend them. We don't get anything for recommending them. It's just we had great service with them. I think for our visas was around $500 or $600 for the both of them, and boom, it was painless. It was worth it. Sure, we could have done it on our own and take a couple trips and this and that or whatever, but I figured we're retired, it's worth the money, and we don't want to have to deal with the stress. So that's how we got our Korean registration cards and for our visas and so on and so forth. So we can recommend those as good service because of the service that they gave, and the people that we've recommended this immigration lawyer to, they enjoyed the service as well. So, we're happy to do that. But as far as a realtor or property management, you really just have to get boots on the ground. And especially in this area. Another reason I say this is because I've had people say, well, put us in contact with the realtor where you did the month-to-month with a 3-month contract minimum. And it's like, I can't really do that because probably 9 times out of 10, because this is a high rental area for military and properties are at a premium. Properties go fast. You have people moving in, you got people moving out. The availability of properties just depends on the time of year. And you could have a property that's available today, and then you go back tomorrow and say, hey, I'm kind of interested. And they're like, nope, sorry, it's already gone. So I can't, and there's management offices that cover only certain buildings or a certain amount of units that they manage. So really, if all their properties are full, you're going to have to go to another property manager to look at properties for rent, and things like that. Does that make sense? It should make sense. So yeah, that's a thing. And really, again, it's hard to recommend a realtor or property management because of that fact. And even realtors, let me tell you this is very interesting, that with realtors, we had some people that contacted us that wanted to do the same thing as us, come and retire in Korea, F4, F1 visa. And they got with a realtor, and by looking through Naver, there was a ton of properties that were available for sale. And they got with a realtor who had properties, at Brownstone, and they said, yeah, there's only a couple. We don't have, they're pretty much full. And it's like, not a lot of listings. And it's like, no. And what happened is they were saying, hey, we only have a few listings that we listed that are properties in Brownstone, and we don't really care about all the other open listings because we want to get the full percentage for listing and doing that property. kind of like in the United States, usually what you'll see is real estate when you're buying a property is you have a 6% commission, 3% goes to the buyer's realtor, 3% goes to the seller's realtor, but if the realtor does both, they can get that full 6%. So kind of similar here into Korea. Here in Korea, you have realtors that won't list other properties where they don't have the full listing rights. So in other words, they'll say, yeah, no, we don't, there's no more there. It's not that there's no more there. There are a bunch of other properties there, but they're just not, they're not interested in showing those properties to get that lower commission. And that's the thing here in Korea. So don't get angry at them. It's just what it is. But what you can end up doing is you can go to a realtor and you could print out the properties that you looked at Naver Real Estate and say, hey, I'm interested in seeing this place right here. And if they're like, if they don't show it to you, then you don't want them as your realtor. But if they end up saying, hey, okay, well, let's look, and they work for you, and they'll take that lesser commission and still do a good job, then that's probably an indication that they're a hungry realtor and they will give you some good business. With that, realtors are ranked here in Korea. So rankings and looking, is it 4 or 5 stars or whatever it is, rankings are very, very important in Korea. So do your due diligence, find a realtor that has high rankings and is experienced in what you want to do. So in our case, I was buying the property here, so we had to find a realtor that was experienced in selling and being that middleman for the person of selling properties to foreigners, and if they had any experience in that, which our realtor did. So you'll have some realtors, I've known some people that I've talked to that said, yeah, they said they were experienced, but they weren't, so you get that all over the world. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of bring this stuff to the table because people are asking me about rental prices. They're asking about property management. What places did you stay at? I've had people message me and say, hey, what is the Airbnb address for where you stayed at? Because I guess it was acceptable to their budget and price range. But it ends up, it doesn't really matter because you're going to go on Airbnb, and if it's booked solid for the year, it doesn't matter if you have the address. Just go on to Airbnb and see what's available, and if it's available, it will be there. If it's not, there's no sense in me sending you the address. It doesn't really matter. That's not how Airbnb works. So any apologies to people who think that I'm trying to, safeguard this information, the Airbnb that we stayed, but that's not the case. It's just like shortly after we left that place and we got our month-to-month minimum 3-month contract place that we stayed in, I had people send me PM saying, hey, give me the address. And it's like, well, I looked it up on Naver and it was booked. It's like, well, I can give you the address, but it's not going to do anything because it's not available on Airbnb. So I had to kind of explain how Airbnb works to some people. And they're like, oh, okay, well, I get it, I think, kind of the older folks. I mean, I'm older. I'm going to be 58 this year. But there are some people that, the apps and the Airbnbs and all of this stuff is new technology, new experiences for them. So they don't really understand how that all works. And that's absolutely fine because now they know. So anyway, that's what we got going on for the people that asked about real estate and rentals and prices and this and that and some more bonus information on real estate and things like that. There it is. So hopefully this will, and I just got, like I said, a bunch of messages. I got 4 messages talking about rental prices in Korea. And this is the answer to all of those questions rolled into one video. So there you go. All right, with that being said, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. I would appreciate that as we continue our retired life here in Korea. I also do some modeling stuff. I do resin printing and, I print out some cool things and paint them as kind of a hobby. Got some fitness stuff, not so much that because I'm getting tired of the fitness. I'm not tired of being fit and going to the gym. I'm tired of people in the fitness world that are selling crap, and that's a whole nother story. So anyway, I've got a variety of information and videos on my channel. I'd appreciate it if you give a thumbs up and if you would subscribe. it would appease the YouTube algorithm god or gods or however they do it. And with that, we'll see you on the next video, okay? Peace. Good stuff.